Dance is an expression of life. Some say dance is the language of the soul. It has become an art form of thought and emotion that has expanded and become very valued and popular in society today because of pioneers in dance like Martha Graham. The idea of setting movement to music was first introduced during the Renaissance in Italy. Ballet was a form of entertainment for the aristocrats of the period. Dance spread to France in the mid-1500s and was greatly developed in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries in Europe. Technique, choreography, and story ballets soon became very popular worldwide, and the dance world flourished. In the late 19th century and early 20th century, some dancers and choreographers became bored with the same technique and wanted more from dance. Ballet had developed into a technique that had to appear as light and effortless, and required exact placement. Additionally, most ballets told stories of happiness and love or heartbreak, but never challenged issues of society. Pioneers such as Isadora Duncan and Ruth St. Denis in America, and Rudolf von Laban and Mary Wigman in Germany wanted to create methods of movement that could be more heavy, yet free. Thus modern dance was born. Many first and second generation pioneers created techniques and approaches to modern dance. Choreographers were finding ways to make dances that were less pleasing to the eye but more challenging to the mind. One of these pioneers was Martha Graham. Martha Graham greatly affected modern dance technique and stood up and brought awareness to issues in society through dance. Martha Graham was born on May 11, 1894 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and was born into a very wealthy family. Martha was raised as a Presbyterian. The religion was against indulgences and believed that dance was a sin. Even though Martha Graham had a passion for dance, it was strictly prohibited in her youth. Her father was a doctor who studied anxiety and mental disorders. One of the things he learned about was how the human body expressed emotion. This affected Martha Graham in the future when all of her dances were expressions of human emotion and experience. In 1908, her family moved to Santa Barbara because of her sister's asthma. When Martha was 17, her father took her to Los Angeles to see Ruth St. Denis, an emerging pioneer of modern dance, perform, even though he was strongly against dancing. After the performance, Martha grew a profound interest in dance, but was not allowed to pursue her dreams. When she was 19, she decided to attend the Cumnock School that specialized in expression, both vocal and physical. In 1914, at age 20, Martha's father died. She then felt free to pursue her dreams and enrolled at the Denishawn School of Dance and Related Arts, founded by Ruth St. Denis and her husband, Ted Shawn, who greatly inspired Martha to dance. Martha Graham's career started at the Denishawn School. She was older, slower, more shy, and out of shape than all of the other dancers. Despite her challenges, Ted Shawn believed in her. She was coached and trained and soon became a confident and intimidating dancer. Martha Graham became a teacher at the Denishawn School, but left for a job as a featured dancer in the Greenwich Village Follies in 1924. In 1926, Martha decided to leave the Greenwich Village Follies to become a teacher and choreographer. Martha Graham started teaching at the Eastman School of Music and worked with 3 women to develop her own technique. However, her schedule could not have been more packed, and she was living in poverty. Despite her struggles, she decided to choreograph her own works in a new technique to create a showcase. When starting to create her technique and choreography, she threw out her knowledge of classical ballet and started with familiar motions like walking and running and started to develop and create. In 1926, she founded the Martha Graham School and held her first concert. Her audience was awed by the new way of moving she had discovered and the emotion that was expressed. And after the show, many students came to Martha wanting to study with her. However, there were some people who did not like what Martha was doing, either because of jealousy, intimidation, or just dislike of the technique in general. This included both Ted Shawn and Ruth St. Denis, her former teachers. Martha responded to this by ignoring those who told her to stop and breaking off from her ties to Denishawn and that technique. Martha Graham spent about 10 years choreographing, expanding, experimenting, tweaking, and perfecting her technique and performing. One time, when Martha was in Chicago on tour, she visited the Arts Institute and was so inspired by the paintings she saw and the expression in them. One of the paintings she saw was by Vasily Kandinsky. It had a streak of red going across. Martha said, quote, "I will do that someday. I will make a dance like that," end quote, and was inspired by the boldness and sharpness of it. Her technique developed and became centered around breath. From inhaling and exhaling, Martha Graham created the principle of contraction and release. The Graham technique, including contraction, release, sharp angles and movement, and dancing from the heart with emotion, started to spread. Martha Graham once said, quote, "I did not want it to be beautiful or fluid. I wanted it to be fraught with inner meaning, with excitement and surge." Additionally, her dancers had to have expression. The dancers needed to convey a message. When talking to her dancers about a piece, she told them, quote, "Don't do that turn because you're told to do it. You should have the feeling of sunlight coming in. That's the why you make that turn," end quote. With this technique, Martha Graham created over 180 dances. From dances like Heretic and Diversion of Angels to Frontier and Appalachian Spring, all of Martha Graham's pieces had meanings and messages for the audience. She was the first dancer to dance about issues of society. Martha Graham grew up and was choreographing in a time in which she witnessed events in America like the assimilation of Native Americans, the suffragette movement, the Great Depression, World War I, the Holocaust, segregation, and the Jim Crow laws. And all of these were represented in her dances. For example, Heretic was a dance she choreographed in 1929. It was not targeted at a certain person or group of people, but it represented someone who didn't fit in or belong, or someone who went against something in society, similar to the theme of another dance she created called Revolt. She even turned down a huge opportunity to perform at the Olympics in 1936 in order to stand up to Nazism, because it was offered by Hitler. She was the first dancer to perform at the White House because she spoke out about these issues and acted as a cultural ambassador. Graham's socially challenging dances did not fix issues right away, and many people were against Graham's style for a long time. However, it paved the way for artists in the future to use art as a form of activism, and that it has the power to make the target feel a certain way. Martha Graham continued to choreograph, and her dance school expanded greatly. She won many awards, such as America's highest civilian honor, the Medal of Freedom, and was named Dancer of the Century in Time magazine. Martha Graham was in her studio watching rehearsals, choreographing, and teaching up until the day before her death. She died on April 1, 1991, at age 96 from pneumonia. She was in New York at the time. The Martha Graham Dance Company has grown and become very large. It tours worldwide and teaches hundreds of students. The Graham technique is now taught in dance schools all around the world. Martha Graham has inspired people to find new ways of movement, but also to use the arts as ways of spreading awareness, expressing emotion, and challenging society.